What would you do if you discovered that your perfect world was nothing but a lie? Eleanor Prescott once believed she was living a dream, a magnificent mansion in the Hamptons, where moonlight danced across the glass and the ocean's lullaby soothed her nights. Yet, in her heart, a vague unease always lurked, as though this happiness were far too fragile. As the wife of a billionaire, she masked her loneliness behind flawless smiles. She played the part perfectly until one day, a mysterious envelope threatened to rip it all apart. If you're ready to uncover the truth behind Eleanor's shattered illusion, hit like and join us as we delve into this gripping story. This story is full of drama, emotion, and unexpected twists. It will keep you from looking away. All right, my beloved viewers, get ready for a tale that will leave you speechless. Please take a second to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see people joining us from every corner of the globe. Eleanor Prescott is far more than just a name. She stands as an immortal emblem of power and success among the elite. She knows exactly what heights she has conquered not by chance, but through relentless effort, unwavering decisiveness, and razor-sharp vision. Every choice Eleanor makes, from selecting strategic business partnerships to cultivating her public image, is weighed with meticulous care. Her every move cements a stature no one can deny, leaving all who enter her world breathless with admiration. From the very start of her career, Eleanor never hesitated to set goals that others deemed unreachable. She studied markets with scholarly rigor, sought out alliance after alliance with potential power players, and transformed each obstacle into an opportunity to demonstrate her prowess. To her, success was not a scenic overlook to be admired from afar, but an ongoing journey demanding constant conquest. Thus, Eleanor's renown extends far beyond mere revenue figures or trophy-lined shelves. It resides in the credibility and admiration she commands within her community. By her side stands Alexander, her husband, who understands the true value of her achievements better than anyone. Not only does he possess a prodigious mind for business, but he has also proven himself her soulmate, her confidant in every critical decision. Together, they share more than corporate expansion plans. They weave dreams of even greater horizons and loftier ambitions. Alexander never shies away from ventures deemed reckless by conventional standards, for he firmly believes that as long as he stands alongside Eleanor, no boundary is unconquerable. Their love, although devoid of fireworks and grand spectacles, is as unbreakable as diamond under pressure. Neither Eleanor nor Alexander requires flowery declarations to prove their devotion. Instead, they showcase it through actions, small acts of care, and silent sacrifices. When Eleanor returns from a marathon of contract signings weary and drained, Alexander is there in the wings, offering quiet comfort and encouragement. When Alexander faces the brutal stress of the real estate market, Eleanor does not hesitate to deliver a timely word of motivation, swiftly followed by bold new strategies to help him prevail. Their strength emanates from balance. Eleanor never allows the glare of glory to eclipse her responsibilities, and Alexander never lets cold statistics diminish his affection. They maintain a nightly ritual of heartfelt conversation, sharing their deepest worries, whether about a looming deal or a moment of personal vulnerability, so that when their hands clasp, it is not merely a physical gesture but a solemn affirmation. We stand together. No one stands alone. Part P6. Their peers, whether Hollywood heavyweights or Wall Street tycoons, recognize in Eleanor and Alexander an inseparable duo. They respect each partner's individual talents, yet they marvel at the harmony forged between two such distinct personalities. Eleanor deftly orchestrates their public relations, transforming every appearance into an opportunity to fortify their joint image, while Alexander leverages his established reputation to open new investment channels. In tandem, they generate magnetic brand appeal without ever sacrificing their core values. Looking at Eleanor and Alexander today, few would guess the hardships of their early days. They endured financial strain and privately questioned whether their chosen path was worth every ounce of sacrifice. Yet it was precisely that moment of crisis that bound them more tightly than ever. Eleanor recalls the day Alexander entered his office, eyes fatigued from stress, and how she convinced him to press on with a plan detailed down to the last figure. Alexander, impressed by her painstaking preparation, felt the sheer force of her belief in him, an unwavering trust that would never allow him to quit. Now, in the universe that Eleanor and Alexander have built, success is no longer a final destination. It is the way they construct and sustain their love, the synergy between two formidable intellects and hearts forever craving their next conquest. Every decision they make, every step they take, bears the bold imprint of passion and affection. Only by witnessing them side by side does one truly grasp that behind all the glittering triumphs lies an undying flammea shared fire that warms two souls driven to conquer the world together. When Eleanor learned that she was pregnant, it was as if her entire inner world burst into a new light, brighter and more pure than any achievement she had ever marked. The first sensation was a blend of exhilaration and a hint of trembling anticipation. Her heart felt as though it were dancing within her chest, each beat echoing a promise of an entirely different beginning. Eleanor was no longer merely the queen of high society with her lavish projects and prestigious soirees. Now, she was the woman nurturing a new life, and that miracle growing inside her made every previous triumph fade in comparison. Each night, when the world seemed to fall silent, Eleanor would gently place her hand on her belly, feeling the soft kicks that answered the love she poured into the wonder forming within her. These were not merely physical movements, but tender whispers from the Futura. Warm, hopeful murmur. "I'm here, Mommy." Eleanor wondered what kind of growth this tiny angel would inspire in her, what hidden chambers of emotion and uncharted languages of the heart she would discover for the first time. That wellspring of feeling drew a smile to her lips, even as the tumult of life thundered beyond. Alexander, her partner in life, could not hide the pride and emotion that glowed in his eyes every time he watched his wife stride forward on her journey to turn dreams into reality. He stood beside Eleanor with a loving gaze that words could never capture, conveying the depth of his devotion to both her and the child she carried. Some nights, he would lean in, brushing a tender kiss across her lips, whispering, amid the rapid beat of her heart, "Our child will be the light of my life." His words felt like magic, warming away every worry and strengthening Eleanor's belief that no storm could conquer the love they were building together. In Eleanor's heart, the image of their small family became an invaluable source of motivation. She pictured their child's first tentative steps, the clear laughter that would soothe every exhaustion, the peaceful moments when the three of them would gather and share life's simplest yet most profound joys. Eleanor understood that true happiness did not lie in profit margins or social rankings, but in genuine connection, in selflessness and responsibility she would carry for a lifetime, and she was willing to sacrifice every personal accolade to secure those priceless moments. Preparing for this new role transformed Eleanor into a version of herself that was stronger yet softer than before. She no longer chased every contract or market shift, but paused to listen to her body, to read parenting books, and to share hopes and anxieties with Alexander. Their love deepened without the need for bouquets or lavish gifts. For every late-night conversation, every laughter echoing through their cozy home, every steadfast clasp of hands spoke volumes. Eleanor knew that the path of pregnancy would not always be smooth. There would be times of fatigue, moments when work pressures or fears about the future threatened to overwhelm her. Yet Alexander remained a steadfast fortress, no complaints, no ledger of who gave more or less, only unwavering support and trust. In those hardest moments, when she felt insufficiently strong, he reminded her of the love that had guided them to this point, and of the profound yet sweet responsibility awaiting them. Then Eleanor realized that this happiness was not merely a personal sensation, but proof of unwavering love, of unconditional companionship between two people who had once conquered pinnacles of fame. Their child, about to be born into an ever-changing world, would grow up in the arms of parents who placed each other first. She and Alexander would teach her the values of perseverance, of gratitude, and of loving not by instinct but through deliberate action. When Eleanor envisioned the future, she no longer dreamed of loftier career milestones, but of evenings spent as a family around the dinner table, of tiny feet pattering through their home, of the smiles she and Alexander would share in deep contentment. That became her greatest yearning, a yearning neither ostentatious nor flashy, but sincere and enduring. With every breath, Eleanor felt the love she and Alexander shared, flowing into a steadfast foundation that no upheaval could shake, and she knew with certainty that their light, this child about to arrive, would kindle an undying flame, guiding their family on all the journeys ahead. The moment Eleanor spotted the cream-colored envelope on Alexander's desk, her heart skipped a beat. Sealed tightly in ink, it bore the insignia of a private clinic in Miami, a name renowned only for its most sensational medical secrets. Eleanor, so accustomed to surprises in her high society life, could never have imagined that lurking beneath his flawless facade lay a truth capable of shattering every ounce of trust she had placed in her husband. With curiosity and caution in her gaze, she peeled back the flap, her pulse racing as though it might burst from her chest. And there, before her eyes, were the words etched onto a medical file: a 7-month pregnancy, belonging to a woman named Isabella Cortez, with the father of the child listed unmistakably as Alexander Kane. Each line of that file felt like an icy blade, slicing through the warm tapestry Eleanor had woven from promises, smiles, and future plans. Isabella Stranger's name had become the woman ripping apart the solid bricks of the love fortress she and Alexander had built together. Those succinct phrases: 7-month pregnancy, private clinic, father, Alexander Kane, echoed in her mind like a death knell for every dream and bright horizon they had once painted. Betrayal crashed over her in relentless waves, rendering her dizzy, her limbs numb. She stood there, beside the very desk where they had jointly sketched out plans to expand their empire only minutes before, and now it bore silent witness to the most personal crime Alexander had concealed. Eleanor's heart churned with unanswerable questions. Why had he sneaked off to Miami? Why allowed another woman to carry his blood without her knowledge? Why had his vows of a perfect family dissolved into a cheap theatrical charade? Every cherished moment she had gifted him now felt like a fraying net, waiting for Alexander's hands to tighten before slipping from around her neck, casting her into the abyss of loneliness and pain. She recalled his tender gaze in front of business partners, the promise, "We will overcome everything together," and the gentle way he had placed his hand on her belly during her pregnancy. All those memories were now tainted by confusion and anger, as she could no longer discern truth from deception. In that instant, Eleanor felt the collapse of her inner world. She understood that remaining silent would make her complicit in his lies, allowing Alexander to continue weaving falsehoods not only around her but around an innocent new life. Yet, to unleash her rage would mean stepping into a merciless battle not just with her husband, but with her own image as a powerful, discerning woman who refused to let anything undermine her domain. But the deepest wound was the sense of betrayal that transcended mere infidelity. It was the negation of the very values she and Alexander had built together: trust, respect, and love. Drawing a steadying breath, Eleanor forced herself to remain calm. She reached for the medical file, closed her eyes for a moment, letting the flames of anger subside before they could ignite into uncontrolled fury. She told herself she must not collapse under this blow. She would confront the truth head-on, compel Alexander to explain, force him to confess every wrongdoing, and hold him accountable for the consequences of his sins. Otherwise, she would lose far more than her husband. She would lose herself. the woman who had believed unwaveringly in the power of love, honesty, and personal integrity. When Eleanor opened her eyes, she was ready. She left the study, clutching the cream envelope like irrefutable evidence. Each step was weighted with pain, yet also driven by iron resolve. She would not give up. She would not wipe away her tears, only to be swallowed by silence. Eleanor knew the confrontation ahead would place them at a perilous crossroads, but she also believed, regardless of the outcome, that she deserved the truth and fair treatment. In that moment of agony, she realized her own strength, and she vowed that no one, not even the man she had once trusted with her entire heart, would ever diminish her self-worth again. Unable to carry the weight of any more hidden pain, Eleanor set her pen down on the blank sheet. Each word she had written felt like a blade against her own heart. She didn't glance back at the room that left her breathless. She only penned a single, searing line to Alexander. "You've destroyed everything. I'm leaving." It was no longer an accusation, but a final verdict on the collapse of every happy memory. As she folded the letter with delicate precision, Eleanor felt her heart contract, not with regret, but with a newfound strength, the power of a mother unwilling to let her child's future be threatened by lies. Morning light slipped through the small window's crack, illuminating the creases in her travel bag. She chose a handful of simple clothes-thin cotton tees, comfortable jeans, and a lightweight jacket left behind the silk gowns and glittering diamond jewels that once symbolized her dazzling life. Each luxury item she refused wasn't merely material. It marked the end of a world she had once believed was unbreakable. Eleanor closed her eyes for a heartbeat, letting the shards of emotions settle into her bones, then forced herself upright and stepped beyond the door that had imprisoned her for far too long. On the drive away from the mansion, Eleanor didn't dare look back. She fought to hold back tears, not because she was already strong, but because she knew that if she let herself collapse, she would lose both herself and the life growing inside her. Waves of nausea struck at random, causing her to double over in the driver's seat, but she gripped the steering wheel as though it were the only hope left in the world, the life she carried. Each quiver in her throat reminded her that she wasn't just running for herself, but for an innocent Sula, tiny spark in need of protection. Making her way toward a small town on the Outer Banks, Eleanor dared not close her eyes for more than a moment. The engine's hum mirrored the rhythm of her heart, and with every mile that passed, she felt both freedom and fear. Freedom from the darkness of buried secrets, fear of the unknown that lay ahead. But Eleanor understood she could not stop. If she did, she would be drawn back to the one who betrayed her, back into the terror that once shattered her. When she finally set foot in the weathered wooden house by the sea, Eleanor didn't take in her new surroundings. She only looked at herself in the mirror, eyes rimmed with red, cheeks hollowed but alight with resolve. This simple room demanded no masks. She need not apply makeup or don a glamorous facade. Here, no one knew Eleanor Prescott, the Hamptons' queen. Here was only a woman, and the life waiting to be born. Placing a hand on her belly, she whispered, "My love, we will make it through." The words were a vow not just to soothe her own soul, but to etch unwavering faith in the future, where she and her child would stand strong together. In the days that followed, Eleanor faced each spell of nausea, each wave of fatigue that struck without warning. There were moments when she collapsed over the table, tears blotting the prenatal appointment notes and the list of essentials for her baby. Yet she stood again, wiped her eyes dry, and wrote, "Tomorrow, we will be better. I promise." Each promise she penned was more than a plan. It was a lifeline, infusing hope and courage into both of them. Amidst the silence broken only by her heartbeat and the gentle pace of the town, Eleanor realized she was not alone. Though separated from Alexander, she felt the profound love she held for her child, love greater than any pain. It was that love that drove her from a false marriage to safeguard the purity of new life. Eleanor offered a soft smile, tired, anxious, yet bright, with the strength of a great Madeira, strength no one could shake. And she knew, though the path ahead would challenge her at every turn, she and her child would walk it together, steadfast as each breath that bound hope to her heart. At Outer Banks, Eleanor found herself leaning on two indispensable women. Obstetrician Dr. Clara Monroe, a seasoned expert whose eyes always shone with warmth and trust, and psychotherapist Maya Elishu, not only listened to every nuance of Eleanor's feelings, but also helped her identify and accept the pain and hope interwoven in her heart. Under Clara's guidance, each prenatal checkup transformed from a dry medical formality into an occasion for Eleanor to witness her faith reborn through the steady beat of her baby's heartbeat. It sounded like a powerful affirmation. "I'm here, and I need you to be strong." Those rhythmic pulses breathed new life into her, dispersing the mounting anxieties, and instilling in Eleanor a profound sense of responsibility and the unbreakable bond between mother and child. With Maya, every therapy session became more than a chance to unburden herself. It was a journey of self-discovery. Maya artfully posed questions that made Eleanor pause and face the scars in her memory, encouraging her to whisper to them, "I am here. I deserve to heal." Gentle, yet deeply transformative, those encounters gradually revealed to Eleanor that she herself, rather than status or a tangle of worries, held the key to forging a brighter future for her and her baby. Determined to turn her anguish into fuel for life, Eleanor began keeping a daily journal, meticulously recording every emotion, from the moments of greatest weakness to the sparks of self-encouragement she discovered. Each page served as a solemn promise. She would not allow pain to dominate her, but would instead harness it to propel herself forward. Her words reshaped her thoughts, converting despair into insight and insight into action. As her pen glided across the paper, Eleanor felt herself shedding layers of emotional armor softly and resolutely to reclaim peace in her soul. She wrote of sleepless nights spent battling loneliness, of sudden waves of morning sickness, but also of the hope that surged when she pictured the name she would one day whisper to her child, and her longing to watch that child grow strong and healthy. Each carefully chosen phrase became a bridge, linking painful past to a promising tomorrow. Beyond her journal, Eleanor devoted quiet moments to listen to her inner voice, not to savor picturesque views, but to understand her own needs. She allowed herself to cry, recognizing that tears were not a sign of weakness, but a natural, necessary release of emotion. When they fell, she let them flow, knowing that only by composing this love letter to herself with sincerity and tears could she transform her grief into a burning desire to live. And as dawn broke, Eleanor awoke with a renewed spirit. She told herself that today she was strong enough to carry on, that the life inside her, though unborn, had already imparted a resilience beyond her personal wounds. Gradually, Eleanor realized she was living not for what had been lost, but for the shared future she would build with her child. She learned to love herself, flaws and all, because only by fully embracing her own worth could she nurture love for her baby. Confidence returned step by step, no longer the hollow glow of status, but the steadfast strength born from a journey of acceptance and self-respect. Eleanor understood that, whatever storms life might cast her way, she would stand firm, fueled by her love for her child, by the journal pages of promises, and by the unwavering by the six deflated that came, silent support of Clara and Maya. When Eleanor set her pen down on the final line of that day's entry, she smiled not because everything was perfect, but because she had conquered her own fears and cultivated hope in her heart, ready to walk into tomorrow with the small hand she carried inside her, stronger than ever before. When Eleanor opened the anonymous email, her heart seemed to stop. The attached file, branded with Alexander's law firm logo, did more than expose his affair with Isabella Cortez. It confirmed that Isabella was an essential accomplice in a spectacular money laundering scheme tied to a series of high-end real estate developments. Infidelity alone was a blow powerful enough to shatter her marriage's foundation, but learning that Alexander had exploited the love of two women to mask his criminal activity felt like an iron clasp squeezing her chest in pure rage. Every page, every line in that dossier cut into her with merciless precision. Isabella was not merely the paramour, but a key link in his criminal network. Alexander, the husband she had trusted without question, was the mastermind, manipulating both hearts and legal loopholes to profit in secret. The truth dropped like a bomb upon every beautiful memory, every promise Alexander once whispered to her. Eleanor recalled the tenderness in his eyes, the sweetness of his smile when he murmured of our future, all now revealed as mere facades covering a dark, calculating plot. She asked herself, how long had he been lying? What role had she unknowingly played in this cruel charade? Each question stabbed her like a dagger, wounding the heart that still beat for the child she carried. Eleanor knew that if she exposed everything immediately, she would become the scorned wife, trading fragile peace for vengeance. Yet remaining silent would make her complicit in his crimes and place her innocent child in jeopardy. In that moment, Eleanor steadied herself with a silent resolve. She would keep this secret, watch, and wait for the right moment to act. She meticulously archived the evidence, encrypted each folder, and organized every document by date and gravity. No one suspected that beneath her fragile appearance, the pregnant woman was constructing an elaborate strategy of her own. Eleanor understood that to see justice served and to protect her child, she had to outwit Alexandra Master Manipulator, and she embraced that monumental task without hesitation. That resolve did more than quell her fear. It ignited a fresh flame of pride. A marriage torn apart by deception was agony enough, but discovering her husband's deep involvement in financial crime steeled her refusal to surrender. Eleanor mapped out her next steps. Gather more proof. Enlist trustworthy legal counsel outside the sphere of power Alexander and Isabella controlled, and safeguard her own and her baby's safety. She knew that any misstep could cost her everything from her freedom to her unborn child's life. Within that simmering anger, Eleanor discovered an unexpected strength. Not the strength born of contract negotiations or impressive revenue targets, but the fierce determination to defend what was most sacred: truth and an innocent life. She recognized that Alexander had long underestimated the woman at his side, the woman he viewed only as a trophy of his wealth. Now, she would prove she was not merely his victim, but his fiercest adversary. Eleanor vowed that when the time was right, she would unveil every hidden corner of his deeds, exposing Alexander Kane to the world, not just as a betrayer, but as a criminal who must face consequences. With that oath, Eleanor closed the email and watched her computer screen go dark. Yet inside her, the darkness had been banished by unwavering resolve. She clung to her secret, refusing to be swayed by fear or influence. Each beat of her pregnant heart reminded her to stay clear-headed and resolute. And in the silence, Eleanor offered herself a proud smile. She was not alone. She would not be defeated, and she was poised to begin a new chapter of struggle, not only for herself, but for the future of the life growing within her. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. Alexander never imagined that, after all his schemes and ambitions, he would feel such emptiness upon learning of Eleanor's disappearance. Losing her was not the sensation of being abandoned, but the collapse of every frame of reference he had constructed. His phone lay silent, Unread messages piled up on the screen like the very daggers he had concealed beneath his success. In panic, he turned to Ethan Brooks, a seasoned private investigator he had once hired to probe rivals. This time, the target was not a real estate deal, but the only woman who had ever taught him what it meant to love. The news came swiftly. Eleanor was hiding in the Outer Banks and refused to see anyone from her past. That revelation struck Alexander like an earthquake. Even power and wealth amassed could not keep the woman he loved by his side. When Ethan reported not only her location but her unwavering resolve, Alexander sank to the floor of his file-cluttered office. Memories the radiant smile Eleanor wore by the pool. The trust shining in her eyes at every joint plano felt like wounds beyond healing. He wondered, were all his promises of our future nothing more than a meticulously staged script? Had he been so intoxicated by prestige that he lost sight of life's true meaning? Every recollection of that smile felt like his heart turned to stone, for he understood that no asset trophy could ever match the value of genuine love. In despair, Alexander tapped out message after message begging for forgiveness. My love, I don't know where to begin. I was wrong, and I want to make it right. Please give me a chance to explain, to atone. I cannot live without you. Those dependent words sounded on his bright screen and received no reply. He had once believed that money and influence could conquer all. Now he realized the one thing that mattered most, this beloved's trust, could not be bought at any price. At first, Alex tried to justify himself. It was the fault of work, the pressure to expand his empire, that he never intended to hurt Eleanor, that he would keep fighting for their family. But as the panic subsided, he recognized those excuses as traps he himself had set. He had exploited her love to plunge deeper into criminal conduct. He asked himself, if Eleanor had not left, if she were still there, would he dare face his own conscience, confess his crimes, and accept responsibility? Or would he continue to hide behind falsehoods, dragging her into danger, day after day without a reply? Alexander awoke in utter confusion. He tore through every information channel, sought out lawyers, tried contacting mutual friends for Eleanor's whereabouts. Yet each effort proved futilish, had chosen silence like a blade severing every tie. He felt keenly his own impotence. Money could build mansions, but it could not rebuild trust. Contracts could vanquish rivals, but they could not mend a shattered bond. In the dark of night, Alexander reviewed his life not through the victor's lens, but that of a defeated man. He remembered how Eleanor had forsaken glamour and abandoned lavish parties to be by his side. Then, he had felt the sincerity in every action she offered him. Now, it pained him that her sincerity had become the very instrument of his undoing. Regret welled up in him, but it was too late for mere apologies. Alexander decided to halt all new deals and pause every expansion plan. He disbanded his entire management team, sat alone at his desk, the seat of his invincibility. This time, the desk held no project files, only a blank sheet and a pen. He wrote, Eleanor, I am sorry for what you have endured. I realize now that prestige cannot compensate for your love and trust. If you grant me the opportunity, I will do everything to prove my worth. I will wait for you. His hand shook, yet each quivering word carried all his remorse and yearning for redemption. Alexander knew that this apology might never reach Eleanor's heart, but he hoped it would mark the beginning of his awakening, better late than never, to confront his own needs. Casting aside pride and ego, he decided to face the consequences he had wrought. In the thick silence, he waited not to reclaim his throne of power, but for Eleanor to look him in the eye once more and answer for herself. Can love conquer all mistakes? And is he still worthy of her trust? In the most excruciating moment, when a sudden, violent pain in her abdomen struck Eleanor like a thunderbolt, she felt her body shatter from the inside, every fear concentrated on a single point, the life of the child inside her. Struggling upright, her hand trembling as she dialed Clareth. Only person she trusted fully, she managed to gasp out, "Clara, please, I can't bear this anymore." Clara's urgent voice crackled through the line, lending Eleanor the strength to cling to hope and fight for survival. As she was rushed to the hospital, each pounding heartbeat reminded her, "Do not give up. Fight for 2 lives." Dizziness threatened to overwhelm her. Yet Eleanor summoned the image of Clara's steady gaze and found the resolve to endure. When the doctor diagnosed severe pregnancy-induced hypertension requiring immediate surgery, Eleanor only heard the frantic rhythm of her own pulse intertwine with Clara's soft breathing at her side. No words of comfort mattered then, only the two of them gripping each other's hands until their joints ached. She knew that if she let go, fear would claim her destiny. Under the harsh glare of the operating room lights, Eleanor squeezed Clara's hand as if to transfer every ounce of remaining strength not for herself, but so that her unborn child might be born. Her heart hammered with prayer. "Keep my baby safe, give us one more chance." Far away, Alexander, after the panic that followed Ethan Brooks's call, dropped everything and raced to the Outer Banks, his heart a tangle of guilt and terror. He had never felt so helpless. If vast fortunes could trade for a life, he would have spared no expense. With each update he received by phone, his voice quivered with regret and longing for redemption. Every time Clara reported, "It's critical," he felt pieces of his heart slip away. He prayed for a miracle, cursing every proud moment that had left Eleanor vulnerable without his protection. In the operating room, Eleanor felt suspended in an endless void, the clink of metal instruments and whispered commands blending with her own ragged breath. She saw only Clara's hand, clutching hers, infusing her with unspoken faith. Waves of pain surged as if intent on crushing her, but Eleanor tuned in to an inner rhythm. Her baby's heart beat steady, defiant a single truth amid the chaos: "I am here." Then, in the second she feared she could not survive, a small cry pierced the air, the first cry of her daughter, Lily. That cry shattered every fear, flooding Eleanor with boundless hope. Through tear-blurred vision, she smiled, knowing their fight had, at least for one soul, ended in victory. When Lily was placed in Eleanor's arms, she felt fragile, yet infused with new strength. That first embrace was more than mother and child meeting. It was living proof that the will to live can conquer all. Eleanor gazed at Lily and whispered, "I'm sorry you had to go through this, but we made it. We did it together." Tears of joy slipped down her cheeks, not for her own survival, but for keeping her promise to protect her baby, even at the cost of her life. At that moment, Alexander, having entered the recovery room, paused in awe at the sight of his wife and daughter entwined, their eyes radiating love and renewed faith. He closed his own eyes, inhaled deeply, and vowed that never again would anything, even his own mistakes, threaten this small family. In the hushed, powerful silence, 3 hearts beat as one. Love and hope had prevailed, despite the storm. After the birth, Eleanor awoke to the hospital's collective sigh of relief, cradling her tiny daughter, Lily, in her arms. Every physical ache seemed to vanish the moment she felt the delicate warmth of that little body, each steady breath soothing the wounds in her heart. Yet Eleanor's mind had not found peace. She knew that the path ahead would remain fraught, and that Alexander Kane's hidden power had not yet released its grip. On that first night with Lily, while every other bed lay silent, she sat at the bedside table, retrieved the pen and notebook Clara had thoughtfully supplied, and set out to write a second letter, this one not a farewell, but a declaration of war. Eleanor laid the pen to paper in quiet deliberation, weighing every word. She had no desire to drown in confessions as she once had. Now she sought clarity and an uncompromising resolve. She wrote, "Alexander, last night, as I heard Lily's first cry, you missed the most important moment of all, our daughter's arrival in a flood of joy. Yet there is one truth you cannot hide forever. That opening line struck like a steel-edged warning. There was no room for pity, only justice and what was right. Continuing, Eleanor made clear that she possessed every piece of evidence linking Alexander and Isabella to a money laundering operation, from transaction records funneled through his law firm to the anonymous bank accounts. She refrained from listing each item as if in an indictment, but left no doubt. Every document, every correspondence, every signature awaited its unveiling. She stated with unflinching honesty, "You exploited my love and the innocence of our child to conceal your crimes. If you do not turn yourself in and cooperate with authorities before I am forced to expose the full truth, I will publish this dossier in its entirety." Each word landed like a frigid blow, striking at both Alexander's ambition and the sanctity of the honor he once considered inviolable. On the next line, Eleanor affirmed, "I do not need you to care for myself, but Lily deserves a father of integrity, someone she can love and be proud of. Should you remain silent, I will ensure that society, your friends, and your peers, those who once marveled at your shining image, will see the face you so deliberately concealed." These words were not thrown about as idle threats, but as a solemn pledge. She would not allow Lily to grow in a family stained by wrongdoing, even if it meant confronting the world's most formidable powers. At the letter's conclusion, Eleanor wrote a final, unwavering ultimatum. "Turn yourself in within 48 hours. This is your last chance to preserve any semblance of honor. After that, I will not hesitate to employ every legal and media avenue to secure our daughter's future." She signed it. Eleanor Prescott, mother, to Lily Kane. That signature was more than her name. It was the proclamation of a new identity, no longer the powerful wife in her husband's shadow, but a woman ready to stand against injustice, even when it meant opposing the greatest love of her life. Placing the letter into a cream-colored envelope marked, "To Alexander Kane, immediate attention required," Eleanor inhaled deeply. Cold sweat still lingered on her brow, yet her eyes blazed with determination. She carefully sealed the envelope and set it on the bedside table within plain sight. Lily stirred softly, and Eleanor smiled, gently stroking her daughter's head as she whispered, "No one will ever hurt you, my love." Before long, a hospital courier delivered the envelope to Alexander. He tore it open in haste and began to read, his confident smile vanishing as panic flooded his gaze. Upon reaching the passages detailing Eleanor's proof, he collapsed into a chair, his heart constricting under the weight of guilt and remorse. In that moment, he realized he had lost not only the wife by his daughter's side, the only woman who could soften him with her love, but also his own honor, now dissipated like mist. Alexander understood that no amount of power or wealth, however formidable, could buy back the chance to atone to Eleanor and Lily. In that harrowing instant, he recognized that Eleanor was more than the woman who once electrified his world with her allure and influence. She had become an unstoppable force, sweeping away every deceitful veneer. Her letter was not merely a summons to confront him, it was a tragic ode to awakening, where a mother dared to fight so her child could grow in purity and pride. And Alexander, in that endless-seeming silence, knew he had led himself into an inescapable dilemma. He must face the truth, or lose everything forever. Eleanor knew that. Although her heart still clung to memories of a once brilliant marriage, she could never return to Alexander. This decision did not stem from coldness or resentment, but from a profound conviction. She deserved an authentic life, where love would never be tainted by deceit. She left the Hamptons mansion behind, severed every business tie, and started anew from zero in Asheville, North Carolina. There, Eleanor rented a charming little house near downtown and opened a pastry shop called Sweet New Beginnings. Each confection she created was more than a refined blend of flour, fresh butter, and farm eggs. It carried the story of past pain, the seeds of newly planted hope, and the fierce love she held for Lily. As those delicate pastries melted on eager tongues, customers tasted not only sweetness, but also felt the warmth of a healing heart. Lily grew up beneath the cozy roof of that bakery, her clear laughter mingling with the aroma of rising dough and drifting vanilla. No artificial glamour disturbed her childhood, only the simple, tender bond of mother and daughter during days spent by the oven. Each morning, Eleanor patiently guided her daughter through the rhythms of kneading dough and watching loaves turn golden, teaching Lily that true happiness is not a spectacular display of luxury, but something nurtured daily through effort, patience, and passion. At Sweet New Beginnings, Lily did more than learn pastry arts. She witnessed her mother's steadfast spirit in the face of life's storms, learning to transform hurt into motivation for love and service. Meanwhile, Alexander, after confessing and surrendering to the authorities, received a harsh sentence, losing his fortune and his reputation entirely. His days of power and million-dollar deals faded into blurred memory. In prison, he happened upon an article about Eleanor's bakery, a headline glowing with praise for the courageous mother who built a sweet empire from the ashes of love. Every word cut into his pride like a blade, as he realized Eleanor had found genuine happiness while he, though he might one day walk free, would never again step into her world. The image of Eleanor, strong behind the pastry counter with joy and pride in her eyes, became an unending source of regret for him. He understood that life allows no room for those who waver before illusory splendor. Eleanor, with Lily at her side, stood by the bakery window, listening to hurried footsteps and breathing in the fragrance of freshly baked bread drifting through the small street. She smiled a smile not only for the present moment, but as a declaration that she had authored her own fairy tale. She had bravely released past sorrow, carried her daughter along a healing journey, and built a home where sweet treats symbolized new beginnings. In Lily's eyes, she saw a future brimming with hope, and Eleanor knew that this was the true happiness she had sought all her life. Dear viewers, Eleanor's story is more than a testament to overcoming betrayal. It is a living proof of maternal strength and unwavering resilience. Even after the deepest hurt, a woman can rise, protect her child, and build a new life filled with meaning. If this tale touches your heart, please hit like, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Together, let us share this message of hope to inspire millions more.